So let us start with personnel administration. Right, how do you understand this word personnel? Right, how do you interpret this term personnel? Now the scope of this topic, कह सर यूनिफॉर्म कोड पे एक बुक लिखी है, हॉबी है या इंटरेस्ट, ये तो तुम्हारा प्रोफेशन लग रहा है. If you have written a book, it can be taken as a interest, not a hobby. Hobby is that you do actively, right? Repeatedly. तो अगर आपने रिपीटेटिव नेचर में कोई चीज़ कर रहे हो तो हॉबी है, नहीं कर रहे हो तो इंटरेस्ट है. वंस इन अ वाइल यू डू इट, राइट. हाउ डू यू इंटरप्रेट द वर्ड पर्सनल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन? Right, the scope of this topic revolves around the very idea that why organizations must focus on improving the quality of manpower. Right? How can they understand the importance of people in the organization? So if you have studied the previous theories, you will realize the classical approach, right? Classical approach was also another way or one aspect of understanding the human being or human workforce in the organization. What was the approach of classical theories? How did they interpret the role of human beings? Mechanized, okay. Or commonsensically? They were being treated only as a means, right? So if you understand in a traditional manner, or most of the traditional organizations, whether they were in public or private, they have or they did not talk about any concept of human resource. They have only visualized the concept of employee. Or workforce. So they have visualized people who are working just as an employee or a workforce, right? So when you treat somebody as an employee or a workforce, what do? You treat them merely as tools, right? Or instrument. तो आप क्या करते हैं? उनको सिर्फ एक टूल या इंस्ट्रूमेंट की तरह यूज करते हैं. यू आर जस्ट यूजिंग देम, राइट, लाइक अ कॉग इन द व्हील, करेक्ट? सो merely cog in the wheel or a tool, you treat them to achieve certain objectives, right? That means the entire system that you design, ठीक है, इसको हम बोल सकते हैं the personnel system. The personnel system means the entire workforce management, right? Entire employee management system. So entire personnel system that you design when you treat people as tools. How do you design it? You design it as what? अभी तो हमने पढ़ा ही है भाई. As a rigid structure. And this is where your Weber, Fayol, Gulick, Arvik, all the scholars, they will fall, who have treated the organizational or personal system merely as a rigid mechanical structure. So when it is a rigid mechanical structure, you do not allow the system to have any flexibility for human aspect. You understanding? So when you study the original theories or traditional theories in public administration, they have viewed people merely as a tool or just as economic beings. So can we say initially the concept of human resource was not there, right? Only the concept of a workforce or employee was there. So they were viewed as economic beings. What are economic beings? Everybody oriented towards money. Okay. They are used for profit. ठीक है.
Their only motivation is money.
Yes. Yes. You're right. That we are interpreting that they have only one aspect of their behavior. And what is that one aspect of behavior? This is unidimensional. Unidimensional. One aspect of the behavior, and that is purely they are working for self-interest. Okay, that's why we use the word rational economic beings. So initially when you study organizations, you'll realize that there was no specific focus on qualitative improvement in the lives of manpower. Mayo, like Taylor. So Taylor also had worked or focused on employee management, workforce management, right? But his methods were very crude and traditional. What methods he used? Taylor?
Personal and intellectual basis. Personal and intellectual basis.
No, Taylor, what method he used? Basic tools. Taylor ने एक कॉन्सेप्ट यूज किया, soldering, right? So Taylor had employed the logic of soldering in understanding the behavior of workers. ठीक है, क्योंकि ये पेपर 1 है, obviously theoretical aspects will come. So Taylor uses the concept of soldering right, to understand the employee's behavior or to understand the basic nature of human beings. Right. The basic nature of humans. Right, see? So he uses this idea and he says that people are inherently lazy. They don't want to work. They are only motivated by money. They are primarily interested in economic benefits. They are selfish. So what he does, he realizes or he somewhere accepts that the basic human nature is that of a kind of animal. An animal which is working purely for its own interests. Now based on this concept of soldering, he develops his entire theory of management or scientific management theory. Fine. The same idea was taken forward by many scholars that you know, Fayol, Gulick, Erwin, right? Even Weber, to a large extent, uses the same criteria, and he designs a bureaucratic structure, right? But Weber was obviously much advanced than them because he has highlighted about certain other things, neutrality, right? Impersonality, apolitical nature, and so many other aspects. Okay. Same logic was used by MacGregor. Now see, if we interpret MacGregor's theory, so MacGregor also uses similar logic to understand the human nature, right? X and Y. X is obviously the classical approach, right? So X is a pessimistic view. It is a pessimistic view of human beings, and Y is an optimistic view. So see, this is how various scholars have now understood the nature of workforce in the organization, right? So now if we start, let's say Taylor. So when the Taylor or the Taylor scientific management failed, why did it fail? ये सिर्फ इंफॉर्मेशन के लिए है. फेलियर ऑफ, लेट अस से, टेलर साइंटिफिक मैनेजमेंट. Okay, let's not write the movement. but scientific management theory.
So it just focus on the software level.
That is fine. Why did it fail?
He didn't consider the human element.
Okay. So कैसे फेल हुआ? नहीं फेल कैसे हुआ? पता कैसे चला फेल हो गया? How did you know it failed?
प्रोडक्शन में सर प्रोडक्शन
वहाँ पे थे हम लोग.
Because sir, even after manipulating them,
No, how I am simply asking, how did we know? Mayo, how did we know he failed? Right? ये तो किताब में लिखा है तो मान लोगे ऐसे लिखा है तो. But there was Mayo who comes and says the theory has failed. Right? And then there was a report submitted by a particular person. Right? So Professor Robert Hoxie's report comes 1928, and it comes with a detailed analysis that this scientific management has been a failure, right? And it has led to various consequences. So he highlights many things in the report, okay, which was actually used or which were the criticisms made by Mayo as well. So this report comes, it highlights certain things, like it says there is a widespread alienation. He talks about that scientific management is a manipulative tool. It is manipulating the people, employees. Right. Discards collective bargaining. Do you understand? Discards collective bargaining. Take a trade unionism, workers' movement, it has discarded all this. So he highlights many things in his report and he says, it is true that scientific management has increased productivity, but at what cost? At the cost of manipulating the workers. Right? And this was duly supported by Mayo's findings under human relations movement. So when Mayo comes with his idea of human relations movement, he almost uses the similar logic, and he also highlights that one of the biggest problems with the workers was, or with the people under scientific management was, that they were facing a perpetual fatigue or pessimistic reveries. There was a perpetual fatigue. What is fatigue? Yes, a kind of perpetual tiredness. And it was not just physical, it was mental also. So it says people have physical and mental fatigue. They are so exploited at the workplace that they are not able to live their life, right? Or they are not able to enjoy exactly the life for which they are working hard. So there was a mental and physical fatigue and pessimistic reverie. What is this? Negative feelings, suicidal tendencies, depression. So he says pessimistic reveries. Most of the workers have started feeling that they don't have any contribution to their work. The same thing which Marx was saying, alienation. That over a time, the workers will become mechanical, they will work like machines, and there will be a sense of loss, or sense of, you can say, exploitation, which they will accept as their fate. तो उनको पता है कि भाई उनका एक्सप्लॉयटेशन ही उनका फेट है और इसके लिए वो कुछ नहीं कर सकते. So Mayo comes with his findings, and obviously proposes the human relations movement, right, or theory. So from Mayo's, you can say, contribution, we start understanding the nature of workforce in the organization, not merely as employee but as a human resource. Right? Then your obviously later scholars, Bernard, Simon, Waldo, Peter Drucker, there are so many scholars, okay, McGregor, all those people, now they start, or somewhere they contributed to this idea of the human resource development or human resource management. So personal administration deals with understanding that how human beings should be treated in the organization. What are the various types of function which an organization must perform to retain and improve the quality of human resource, whether it is training, selection, recruitment, salary, incentives, whatever. So what should be the adequate design of the organization so that human beings can excel, evolve and grow within the organization and ultimately contribute to the, not only to the higher productivity but to the higher value system in the organization. So they make the organization more ethical, right, and not just more productive. So its focus is not only to understand some techniques or tools which improve the human or workforce in the organization, but also it imparts certain degree of value and ethics to them so that they can achieve the public interest. So overall purpose or focus of personal administration is qualitative improvement in the human resource, right? Growth in the human resource and ultimately inculcating some new values and beliefs in the human